Hello, and welcome to Sparks of Love.
This is a story about human weaknesses and the strength of decision-making, about how forgiveness and letting go can help us move forward. Rob faces a painful divorce, deceit, and disappointment, but ultimately finds a new path to happiness. I have learned from my own experience that you need to check everything carefully before getting married. This is an extremely important moment, and if you do not take into account all the nuances, then in the future it will all become clear. I wasn't a fool. I was taken advantage of and led by the nose, and it was done by the people I trusted the most and thought I could rely on them at any moment. I instructed the two gentlemen carrying the dresser to place it against the wall. Returning to the task of hanging pictures, I was approached by Tom, who had 2 suitcases in hand, asking where I wanted them. I want them on the floor in front of the bed, and when you bring in the items on hangers, just place them in the closet. Once the pictures were up, I arranged the suitcases on the bed and proceeded to unload them into the dresser drawers. The remaining boxes were brought in by Tom and 2 others, Mike and Phil. I directed them to store the contents in the closet. Phil handed me a travel case, remarking, "This is the last of it." Taking the case, I informed them that I would meet them at Murphy's Tavern in half an hour. After unpacking the case and organizing its contents on top of the dresser, I stepped back to survey the room, adjusting a few items for a more uniform appearance. I assessed the overall arrangement, satisfied with the result. I left the room and headed to Murphy's to join my friends. I was enjoying my second beer when my cell phone interrupted the moment. Glancing at the screen, I noticed the call was from my wife. Opening the phone, I greeted her with a casual, "Hello. Rob, I'm at the house, and I can't get in. The garage door opener isn't working, and none of my keys fit the locks," she said. "Not surprising, Maggie, since you don't live there anymore." "Of course, I live here." "Where are you, Maggie?" "I'm at the house." "I mean, where are you standing right now?" "On the front porch." "Look around you. You should see a man approaching. His instructions were to wait until he saw you take out your cell phone and make a call before telling you what is going on. There's a man coming up the walk right now. He will answer all of your questions. Goodbye." 5 minutes later, my cell phone rang again, and once more, it was my wife. "Rob, what the hell is this nonsense about divorce?" "No nonsense, Maggie. I just decided that it was time to end things with a cheating wife." "Don't be stupid, Rob. I have never cheated on you." "I'm not being stupid, Maggie. What I am is no longer stupid and blind. Don't bother calling me again. You've been served, and the papers have my attorney's name and phone number. Any communication between us from now on will have to go through him. And by the way, I moved all of your things out of the house and into your lover's place. Goodbye, Maggie." I disconnected, signaled the waitress, and ordered us another round. It all began with a call from Tom, who suggested meeting up for a drink after work. Tom had been my closest companion since the first day of 7th grade, and our bond was immediate and unwavering throughout high school. Following graduation, I pursued a degree in business management at college, while Tom enlisted in the Navy. After completing his service, we reconnected, meeting once or twice a week and hosting monthly cookouts in either his backyard or mine. Our rendezvous took place at Murphy's Tavern, finding Tom already seated at a back table. I waved at Sally as I passed the bar, and she promptly opened a Coors, handing it to Sherry to deliver to me. Seated across from Tom, I inquired, "What's going on?" "It's not good, buddy, and I won't come off looking great here, so I need to provide some context. Remember our high school days? If a girl didn't engage on the first date, there wouldn't be a second one. Our philosophy was if she did on the first date, 1 wasn't enough, and 4 was too many." "Yeah, but that's ancient history." "Yes and no. It convinced me that intimacy was just entertainment, fun, not to be taken seriously. You know, and I know you know, that Barb and I are swingers. We keep it discreet unless someone approaches us about it, and only swing with out-of-town groups. Barb shares my view. Intimacy is meant to be enjoyed devoid of love and devotion. I love Barb to death, and everyone knows it. It doesn't bother me to see her enjoying herself with someone else because I know she'll be going home with me, committed to spoiling me rotten. What does that have to do with me? I'm working on it. After leaving the Navy, our approach to relationships changed. I had already met Barb and believed she was the one for me while you were dating Maggie. Additionally, we had matured a bit with age. I married Barb and you married Maggie, and the following 6 years passed happily until 2 weeks ago. What happened 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, you sat at this very table. After a few beers, you shared that you felt something was wrong in your marriage. You even mentioned, and I quote, "If I didn't know better, I would say Maggie is cheating on me." Remember that? Yeah, I do. Well, Rob, that's what brings me here today. Maggie is cheating on you. You've got to be kidding. I'm not. Maggie has been cheating on you. You are serious? As serious as death. How long have you known? Answering that question straightforwardly is tough. Come on, Tom. You brought it up, so spill it. Okay, I've known for 2 weeks. She has been cheating on you since before you got married. Have you been drinking all day? Of course not. Why would you even ask that? Because what you said makes absolutely no sense. You've only known for 2 weeks, but you claimed she was cheating before we got married. We got married over 6 years ago, Tom. I was aware of her activities since before your marriage, but it wasn't until our conversation 2 weeks ago that I realized it constituted cheating. This is the part where my image takes a hit. Given our past similarities, I assumed you shared my perspective on intimacy, that it was enjoyable, entertaining, and not necessarily tied to love or devotion. I understood that you and Barb weren't like me, but I recognized that everyone has their own preferences. Some men enjoy watching their wives with other men, while others like the idea of their wives going out and then sharing the details afterward. Some find excitement in having a more adventurous spouse, and there are those who, to maintain harmony in the family, allow their wives some freedom. Then there are men who don't mind what their wives do as long as they return home. I assumed you fell into one of these categories. Why would you assume that? Why wouldn't I? Maggie has been engaging in this behavior for over 6 years, at least twice a week. How could you not be aware? I mean, come on, Rob. Concealing infidelity for 6 or maybe 8 months is one thing, but for 6 years? I assumed you must have known, just as you knew about Barb and me without ever mentioning it. I never brought up what I thought was happening between you and Maggie. Now, am I correct in thinking that, considering how well you know me, you might have assumed the same about me? I pondered his words for a moment before responding, no, not at all. If it's been happening for as long as you suggest, I can understand the rationale behind your thoughts. What baffles me is that it could have persisted for so long without me having a clue. It's only in the past month or so that I started sensing that something was amiss. So I suppose the crucial questions now are who, when, and where. I attentively absorbed Tom's account of everything he knew for certain, his suspicions, and the information he'd gathered from others. When he finished, I sat there profoundly shaken. What's your plan? Tom inquired. I'll gather evidence and then expose that deceitful person, I replied. While driving home, I reflected on the day I first encountered Maggie. My brother Jerry and his wife Christina had invited me to a Sunday barbecue. Upon entering their home, Christina immediately grabbed my arm and insisted on introducing me to someone. This wasn't the first time Christy had attempted to play matchmaker since my breakup with Marcia, who had been my girlfriend for 3 years until she casually informed me of a date with another guy. Christy had persistently set me up with 6 other candidates. Marcia's revelation had come at an unfortunate moment, as I had intended to propose to her that very night. After her announcement, I calmly said, "I hope you have a nice time," and proceeded to open the ring box. I glanced at the ring and declared, "I guess I'll return this tomorrow." I got up, walked away from her tearful protests, and ignored her constant calls for the next 2 weeks until she eventually gave up. Now there was Christy attempting to arrange another encounter with a perfect match. Despite my repeated requests for her to stop, she persisted, oblivious to the fact that I wasn't ready for a new relationship. I gently pulled my arm away from Christina's grip and asserted, "No, Christina, not this time," before making my way to find some beer. The gathering included about 24 people, and I was familiar with at least half of them. As I circulated and engaged in conversations, I discreetly observed the women present, trying to deduce which one Christina had in mind for me. Despite Christina's assumption that there was a specific type I'd be interested in, all 7 previous attempts had introduced me to individuals similar to one another and not suitable as replacements for Marcia. I scanned the crowd but couldn't identify anyone who fit the perceived type. However, I did come across a stunning woman with dark hair that quickened my heartbeat. She was surrounded by a group of guys, one of whom was likely her husband, fiancé, or boyfriend. It seemed impossible that she wasn't already spoken for, but I figured there's no harm in trying. Placing my empty beer bottle on a table, I approached the captivating woman who seemed to be the center of attention. I said to her, "I hope you don't mind the interruption, but Christina asked me to come over and find you." "And who might you be?" "I'm Rob. Christina is my sister-in-law." "Well, we shouldn't keep her waiting. Lead the way." I noticed she had been drinking white wine, so I guided her to the makeshift bar and offered to refill her glass. "I thought we were going to meet Christina." "No, what I meant was that Christina sent me to find you." "Could you explain that to me?" "When I arrived, Christina mentioned that there was someone here she wanted me to meet. Her exact words were, 'She's just perfect for you, Rob.' Unfortunately, she got caught up with someone else before introducing me to this perfect lady. So, I wandered around until I found you." She cast a discerning gaze my way and then remarked, "And you immediately recognized that I was the perfect match for you?" I could tell even from across the room. Just then, Christina approached us. "Oh, good, you found each other. Maggie, this is Rob. Rob, meet Maggie O'Neill." Maggie and I burst into laughter, and Chrissy gave us a puzzled look, asking, "What? What did I say? Why are you laughing?" Still chuckling, I replied, "I forgive you, Chrissy. I think this time you got it right." This time Maggie inquired, "It's a long story, and I'll share it all on our first date, which I hope will be tomorrow." It was, and it marked the beginning of a courtship that concluded 6 months later when Maggie and I exchanged vows in front of a municipal judge, with Christina and my brother Jerry as witnesses. Summoning all my self-restraint, I managed to behave normally upon arriving home. Maggie welcomed me with a kiss, casually mentioning that dinner would be ready in 20 minutes. Retrieving a beer from the fridge, I headed to the family room, turned on the TV, and tuned into Fox News. As I endured the mindless chatter of pundits discussing trivial matters, I couldn't help but contemplate how Maggie could confess her love for me daily while engaging in a clandestine affair behind my back. What baffled me even more was that this deception had been going on for over 6 years, a period that extended back to our dating days. Tom had disclosed the details, Tuesdays, Thursdays, some Saturdays, and especially during my business trips. Tuesdays were supposedly dedicated to card night with her college girlfriends, the sorority sisters she remained close with. Thursdays involved her participation in a book club at the library, so after our dinner, she would kiss me goodbye, urging me not to wait up, only to head out and engage in more than just bridge. Now aware that 30 minutes after kissing me, she would be in a compromising position with her various lovers, yes, lovers, not just one. After receiving my customary kiss, I immediately turned to the internet. It took me less than 5 minutes to find what I needed. A credit card number and a few key clicks would ensure delivery to my office within 3 working days. Consulting my watch, I realized I still had time to make it to Radio Shack before closing. By the time Maggie returned from her supposed bridge night, our house phone was tapped and I was in bed, feigning sleep. Even though we had previously made love after her card nights, I now understood that on those occasions, I was not her first encounter of the evening. While I continued to engage in intimacy with Maggie on some nights to avoid suspicion, I vowed never to let myself be someone's second or third choice again. In the mornings, I typically left for work before Maggie, and I almost always arrived home after she did. This left me with little opportunity to check the phone tap until Thursday evening when Maggie left the house for her supposed book club meeting. On Wednesday morning, Maggie had a conversation with her mother for about 5 minutes. "Hi, everything okay?" "I'm fine. You didn't seem like yourself last night. I guess I'm just a bit worried about Rob. He's acting a bit strange. Do you think he knows or suspects something?" "I don't know. It's just a feeling I have. I don't have any solid evidence, just a hunch." "Do you want to cancel tomorrow night?" "No, because if he's suspicious, I'm afraid it would make him curious why, after years of going, I suddenly stopped. I think we have to keep it business as usual. Both of you need to stay vigilant and ensure that nothing gives us away. I'll let him know. We don't want the secret getting out." There was only one call on Thursday. "Hi. Hi yourself. Are we still on for tonight? Wouldn't miss it. Love you. Love you too, baby. See you in an hour." Once again, I pretended to be asleep when Maggie came home, and it took all I had not to flinch when she cuddled up next to me on the bed. On Friday, my package was delivered, and upon opening it, I familiarized myself with the instructions. It turned out to be a wireless mini camera cleverly disguised as a book with motion activation and the ability to transmit signals to a receiver located up to 300 feet away. Tom informed me that my wife and her lovers occasionally used our house when I was away on business, possibly so that Maggie could be home if I called. My plan was to strategically place the disguised camera during my next trip out of town. While putting the device into the trunk of my car, my thoughts lingered on the phone call from Tuesday. I realized I needed to address Maggie's concerns and ensure she moved past the uneasy feeling she had. There was only one way to do it. When I got home, Maggie was in the kitchen making dinner. Sneaking up behind her, I hugged her gently, saying, "Turn off the stove. I'll start with dessert tonight." "Is this dessert going to be filled with cream?" she teased. "I wouldn't be surprised at all," I replied. She turned the stove knobs to the off position, and I lifted her, carrying her to the bedroom. I made sure to repeat the gesture on Saturday morning and Sunday night, hoping it would alleviate any lingering uneasiness. On Monday, I informed Maggie that I'd be heading to San Diego for 4 days the following week. Tuesday, I took the plunge and stayed up to be with her, engaging in a physical encounter, not lovemaking, just physical intimacy, before we fell asleep. Subsequently, Maggie's phone conversations no longer hinted at her suspicion of my peculiar behavior. Come Friday, I eavesdropped on a recorded conversation, discovering Maggie's plans to visit her lovers before a regular hairdresser appointment. The content of the conversation confirmed my expectations. "Will we be revving at your place next week while he's away?" "Absolutely. You know I have to be around when Rob makes his nightly check-in call. I'm looking forward to next week. No need to rush, no frantic race to get you home. I cherish the moments when we can spend the entire night together." "I feel the same way, baby. I have to run. I need to prepare dinner for my husband." We engaged in physical intimacy on Friday night, Sunday afternoon, and again on Monday morning before I left for my trip. As I bid Maggie farewell, I was mindful that if the book camera functioned as promised and captured what I anticipated, Maggie and I would no longer be sharing a home. A week later, the camera fulfilled its purpose, but it failed to capture both of Maggie's lovers. Initially, this puzzled me, as I had anticipated having footage of both individuals. However, I dismissed the concern since I had gathered more than enough material for my intended use. Over the weekend, I made an effort to behave normally around Maggie. On Saturday, I met with Tom for a beer, and we finalized our plans for Monday. At 10 o'clock that day, well after Maggie had left for work, Tom, Phil, Mike, and I convened at my house to relocate all of Maggie's belongings. By 11 o'clock, the locksmith had arrived, changing all the locks and reprogramming the garage door opener. In the preceding week, I consulted with an attorney to initiate the divorce paperwork, but we delayed serving the papers until I had obtained the visual proof I sought. Monday morning, I contacted the attorney and instructed him to proceed with serving the papers. Phil and Mike had left, leaving only Tom and me at Murphy's. "Ready or not, it's showtime," Tom spoke up suddenly. Just then, my brother Jerry approached us with intense anger. "You scoundrel. What's the idea of suing Christina and me for alienation of affections? Are you out of your mind? No, but you must have been to think you could get away with it forever. You're out of your mind. If you get out of here, Jerry, while you still can under your own power. Don't threaten me, you little. Jerry was 63, and I was only 5 feet 11 inches, so I was little compared to him. I stood up and hit him, landing a punch right on the chin. He went glassy-eyed and started to stagger. I hit him twice more, and he fell to the floor. I had already warned Gus behind the bar about the potential altercation, and he just kept drying glasses. Looking down at Jerry, I kicked him in the crotch. As I was about to kick him again, Tom pulled me back. Enough, bud. I think he understands how you feel. I don't know if he has the courage to charge you with assault, but let's not make it any worse than it is. Jerry struggled to get up, and I added, Mom and Dad are going to be so proud of you. You wouldn't have the courage. I have plans to dine with them on Wednesday night, and they're likely to inquire about Maggie's absence. Care to speculate what my response will be? Oh, and by the way, I utilized the key you entrusted me with during your vacation to access your home. I relocated all of Maggie's belongings to your spare bedroom, so now she can stay there full-time instead of just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I turned to Tom and suggested, let's leave this place. I waved at Gus, and he reciprocated before we departed. When I arrived home, Maggie's car was already in the driveway, and she sat inside waiting for me. After pressing the garage door opener button, I maneuvered around Maggie, entered the garage, and closed the door behind me. Despite her attempt to enter before it shut, Maggie didn't make it in time. Hoping she would eventually leave, but knowing she wouldn't, I proceeded into the house. The doorbell began to ring incessantly, and anticipating that it would persist until I answered, I decided to face it head-on. Having foreseen this situation, I had already secured the front and back screen doors in the patio after the locksmith's visit. Maggie attempted to pull the screen door open, but it remained firmly shut. Let me in, Rob. Maggie pleaded. There's nothing for you here. All your belongings have been relocated to Jerry and Christina's place. You now reside in their spare bedroom, saving the travel time you used to spend on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I informed her. We need to talk, Rob, she insisted. No, we don't. The time for that conversation should have been the day I proposed. What should have happened then is you saying, oh, gee, Rob, I don't know. I have long-term lovers I don't want to give up. If you can see your way clear to share me with them, of course, I'll marry you. I would have declined, and we could have avoided what we're going through now, I replied. I need to explain, Rob, she persisted. Probably, I interrupted. But while you feel the need to explain, I don't feel the need to listen. All communication will be through my attorney from now on. With that, I closed the door in her face. Maggie pounded on the door for another 15 or 20 minutes, but I simply turned up the TV volume and ignored her. The following day took a turn for the worse. After a discouraging start, as I prepared my morning coffee, the phone interrupted my routine. It was Jerry. Rob, we need to have a conversation. You've misunderstood everything. It's not what you think, and I need a chance to explain, Jerry pleaded. Those were the exact words Maggie used last night, and I'll tell you what I told her. You might want to clarify, but I have no interest in hearing it. Stay out of my life, Jerry. No calls, no visits, no emails or letters. As far as I'm concerned, you're dead to me, and I don't want to see you or hear your voice again, I retorted before hanging up. Still fuming from the call, the phone rang once more, and this time it was my mother. Don't forget, you're coming over for dinner tomorrow night. Aunt Grace is in town, and I'm hosting a family dinner, my mother reminded me. Will Jerry and Christina be there? I inquired. Of course, she replied. Then I'll have to decline. Why in the world would you say that? Jerry and Christina are no longer part of my life. If you want to know why, ask them about their 6-year affair with Maggie, I explained. Oh my God, Rob, you can't be serious, my mother gasped. Unfortunately, I am. 6 years, but you've only been married for 6 years. It seems it started even before Maggie and I got married, I clarified. Baby, I'm so sorry. Give my love to Aunt Grace and come up with an excuse for why I can't make it. We'll talk later, my mother said before hanging up. It pained me to put my mom in a position where she had to navigate family events without me and Jerry in the same space, but I knew I had to explain sooner or later. I opted for sooner, as the sooner she knew, the sooner she could confront Jerry. After ending my conversation with my mother, I began inspecting the house and compiling a list of tasks to enhance its market appeal. I harbored no illusions about keeping the house. Living in a state where no-fault divorce was the norm meant selling the house and dividing the proceeds. Moreover, the house was excessively spacious for a single person, as we had initially purchased it with plans for a future family. Our intention was to start having children at 30, allowing us freedom to travel and pursue activities that would become challenging with kids. In hindsight, I was relieved we had delayed, as subjecting children to a divorce is never ideal. While contemplating the backyard on the patio, I heard a voice behind me. Afternoon, Rob, Christina greeted. What do you want to talk about? I asked coldly. You won't talk to Maggie or Jerry, so I thought I'd try. At least I don't think you'll hit me like you did Jerry, she said cautiously. No need to talk, Christina. You don't have anything that I either want or need to hear. Since when have I been Christina? It has always been Chrissy or Chris. That was before I found out about you stabbing me in the back for the last 6 years, I retorted. Don't try to charm me, Christina. I wired the house before my last out-of-town trip. I have it all on DVD, Christina. So save your lies. Now please leave. I won't hit you like I hit Jerry, but if you don't leave on your own, I'll pick you up and carry you off my property, I warned. You do that, and I'll file assault charges against you. You can call the cops and have them evict me from your property, but if you touch me without my permission, I'll burn you, she threatened. I locked eyes with her and held my gaze as I took out my cell phone. So be it, I said as I started pushing buttons on the phone. What are you doing? She asked nervously. Taking your advice and calling the cops, I replied. Damn it, Rob, why won't you be reasonable and hear me out? She pleaded. Because I don't want to. All right, I'll go, she relented. She turned and walked around the side of the house and out the gate. I disconnected the call and went back to scoping out the yard. For the following 2 days, I avoided answering Maggie's calls, whether they came through my work phone, home phone, or cell. Evenings were dedicated to working on home improvement projects listed for preparing the house for sale. While fixing a leaking shower door in the downstairs bathroom, a loud noise from the kitchen caught my attention. Upon investigating, I discovered Maggie entering through a broken window. What are you doing here? Getting into my house since my key is no longer valid. That's the way I chose to do it, she said. You're not supposed to be here. This is my home as much as it is yours. Simply claiming I don't live here anymore doesn't change that. You should have hired a better lawyer, Rob. Your divorce papers don't specify who gets the primary residence pending the court's decision. I've corrected that in my petition. Once you're served, you'll have to move out. Your petition? I'm countersuing. On what grounds? I demanded. We're a no-fault case, Rob, so I don't need grounds. However, my lawyer suggested stating a reason, so I'm citing extreme mental cruelty. And if there are no complications, the paperwork is rubber-stamped, and it's done, explained I. But it's not true, so it becomes public record. And if someone does a record search, I won't come out looking good, Maggie pointed out. So, fine. If that's how you want to play it, I'll consult my lawyer tomorrow and change my petition from irreconcilable differences to adultery. Let's see how you fare if your name pops up in a record search. To spice it up, I have evidence for my claim, and you don't, I threatened. You don't have any proof, Maggie challenged. I'm well aware. I received information from a reliable source that you were unfaithful, so I installed surveillance cameras in our house before my recent business trip. I possess a vivid recording on a DVD capturing you being unfaithful in our bedroom and on our bed, I revealed. Is that the reason for all this? My involvement with Chrissy and Jerry? Maggie inquired. Jerry? What does Jerry have to do with any of this? Don't feign ignorance, Margaret Estelle. You know very well what Jerry's role is in this. The three of you have been betraying me since before we even got married, I accused. I noticed a change in her expression as if a light bulb had suddenly lit up. Oh no, Rob, you've misunderstood. There is absolutely nothing going on between Jerry and me. There has never been anything between Jerry and me. Yes, between me and Chris, but never with Jerry, Maggie clarified. That's not the information I received. You visit Jerry and Christina every Tuesday and Thursday when you're supposed to be at card games and book club meetings. Sometimes Jerry is home, and sometimes he isn't. Even when he's home, he stays in his den or works in the basement. Jerry has never been involved in what Chris and I do. He's aware of it, of course, but he also knows that Chrissy loves him and won't seek another man. He allows her those little pleasures, Maggie explained. So you're admitting to cheating on me? I accused. Absolutely not. Cheating implies taking something from you and giving it to someone else. But that's exactly what you were doing. No, I wasn't. Maggie denied. Did I ever refuse you when you wanted intimacy? Except during my monthly cycle? No, I didn't. Even then, I always satisfied you if you desired it. Who initiated lovemaking? Half the time, I did. Has our intimacy life suffered due to my time with Chris? No, it hasn't. We still make love 4 or 5 times a week. Can you point to anything over the past 6 years that shows I didn't love or care for you? Maggie challenged. I remained silent, allowing her to continue. No, you can't. Do we cuddle any less? There's nothing to indicate that I don't love you or deprive you of anything. My involvement with Chris hasn't cost you a thing. Your involvement with Christina? I'm bisexual, Rob, and I have been since summer camp when I connected with 2 girls who are also bi. Chris was my roommate throughout college, and we recognized our shared orientation right away. We were lovers during college and beyond. It's been almost 11 years of fulfilling each other's bisexual desires. It's still cheating, and you know it. The fact that you've lied to me for 6 years about your activities on Tuesdays, Thursdays, some Saturdays, and when I'm away proves that you know it's wrong, Maggie countered. No, it doesn't. It just proves that I love you too much to let you know because I knew how you'd react. Knowing would likely have driven us apart. Of course, knowing you were cheating would break us apart. Damn it, Rob, I wasn't cheating. I didn't tell you because of the thoughts in your head right now. You're homophobic, and you know it. I can't even count the derogatory remarks you've made about non-heterosexual people. If I had told you I was bisexual, you would have assumed I was queer, a dyke, or whatever else you use as a derogatory term for people who don't view intimacy as you do. I never let you know because I needed what I get from Chris that I can't get from you. So you're saying I don't satisfy you in bed? No, damn it, that's not what I'm saying. I'm extremely satisfied with you in bed, but you don't have the physical aspects I need. You're not a woman, Rob, and I occasionally need that. I need you, and I need what I get from Chris. It means both, Rob. I need a man, and that's you, and I need a woman, and that's Christina. I need both of you. There was a brief pause, and then Maggie broke the silence, asking, "What's the next step, Rob? Should we contact the lawyers and ask them to nullify the paperwork? Do we move past this and focus on our marriage?" I'm not sure if that's even possible, Maggie. You've shattered my trust. How do I know that Christina is the only one you've been unfaithful with? Can I be certain there isn't another man in the picture? Can I trust your claim that you had nothing to do with Jerry? All I have is your word, but what is the value of that word? You've proven to be an adept liar for 6 years without me suspecting a thing. Even if you're telling the truth, you are still unfaithful. Call it what you want, Maggie, but to me, it's still infidelity. Any form of an intimate relationship with someone other than your spouse is cheating. Can I move past it? Perhaps, with effort. But can you, with your bisexual nature, but just having only half of what you claim to need? Can you let go of Christina and find contentment with just me? I questioned. I'm not letting go of Christina, Rob, Maggie stated firmly. Well, there's your answer, I replied. What answer? Maggie asked, puzzled. You asked if we should contact the lawyers and void the paperwork, and you just answered that question. The answer is no. We won't call them, I clarified. I never made that statement, Maggie protested. Yes, you did. When I asked if you could prioritize our relationship over Christina, you chose her, I explained. Come on, Rob, be reasonable. I explained my perspective to you, Maggie pleaded. You explained it from your point of view, and as far as you're concerned, it's not an issue. But from my standpoint, it is a problem. I won't share my partner with anyone, be it a man or a woman. If my partner engages in intimate relations with someone else, it's considered cheating, and I won't accept it, I asserted. Are you serious? Are you willing to end what we've had over this? Maggie asked incredulously. Okay, Rob. I'll let go of Chris. Are you satisfied now? Maggie conceded. No, Maggie. It's too late for that now, I replied. Why? I'm giving you what you want, Maggie said, confused. Yes, but you're doing it reluctantly. You don't really want to. And as far as you're concerned, I'm forcing you. You resent it, and over time, that resentment will build and further affect our relationship. You still don't acknowledge that you've done anything wrong, and if the opportunity arises where you think you can do it without consequences, you will. Our only chance was when I asked if you could be content with just me, and you replied with a definitive "I'm not giving up Christina, Rob." That sealed the fate of our relationship, I explained. No, Maggie. The only way our marriage could have continued was if I never found out. Unfortunately, I did. Go enjoy Christina and find a man who can accept it. Just make sure you're honest with him before you marry him, I concluded. Maggie never pursued a countersuit, and the divorce was finalized. It was painful because I genuinely loved Maggie, and that feeling may endure, but I couldn't bring myself to accept infidelity, even if she didn't believe she was cheating. I suppose adhering to old-fashioned values comes with a price. Maggie remarried, but I have no knowledge of whether she disclosed her inclinations to her new spouse before they exchanged vows. What I do know is that she lived in Jerry and Christina's spare bedroom until she tied the knot again. The rift between my brother and me never healed. Maggie's statement that he never laid a hand on her meant nothing to me because he was aware of her actions, kept it from me, and covered for her, which in my view was just as egregious. While I reached a point where I could attend family gatherings with him and Christina present, I maintained my distance, and we never exchanged words despite Christina's attempts to bridge the gap. I eventually met a woman I liked enough to date consistently, and after 6 months, she hinted at wanting a long-term commitment. Before tying the knot, I asked if she had any secrets I should be aware of. When she inquired about the nature of secrets, I shared my history with Maggie. She chuckled and said, I've had a few experiences, but I'm not particularly into them. I much prefer fidelity, and I'm a strong believer in it. I married Betty, and things are going well. In fact, she's expecting, and I'll be a father in 6 months. This story makes you think about the complexity of interpersonal relationships, how we perceive betrayals, and how we react to them. It also demonstrates that decision-making can sometimes be a difficult and painful process, but ultimately it can lead to a new beginning and a better life.